Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another episode of The Spread. This is your guest host, Big Easy, in the studio for Jim today. We're going to talk a little bit of NL West baseball with our senior baseball analysts, J Dash and JK47. We've already went through the Colorado Rockies and how they're probably going to end up in the cellar this year. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the San Diego Padres, who, in my opinion, I think is pretty much on the same level as Colorado. What do you think, Dash?
Yeah, I'm not high on San Diego this season, although their rotation, the top of the rotation, doesn't look too terrible this season. But I think the team overall had a better outlook last season, and they got rid of a lot of those pieces. So we'll have to see how it turns out for them this season. The one re-signing they made was Brandon Morrow. They signed him to a minor league deal. JK47, you know Brandon Morrow, he has some upside. He showed it with the Toronto Blue Jays, but really outside of that, he's never been able to stay healthy. This guy gets injured more than really anyone in baseball at this point. And we'll have to see if he's even able to stay healthy for this season and make this team at some point. We seen last year with the Padres, Brandon Morrow actually got a few starts for him and looked really good, and then again goes down to injury, misses the season. So we'll have to see. I always like Brandon Morrow and his upside. It's just he's not able to stay on the field. And then some signings they made. They signed some relief pitching. Fernando Rodney, Casey Jansen, his was a minor league deal. Matt Thornton and Carlos Villanueva as well. They signed shortstop Alexi Ramirez. You know, this is a guy that played for the Chicago White Sox for a long time there, and he was a pretty good player for him. He fell off over the past year or two, though. So we'll have to see if he can bounce back and give the San Diego Padres some value offensively. They signed outfielder Skip Schumacher and second baseman Jamil Weeks to minor league deals as well. Two guys I'm not really high on, although Skip Schumacher, he's always been a nice utility fill-in player over the years for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yep, good old Redbirds.
A couple of trades they made. They traded for catcher Christian Bettencourt from the Atlanta Braves, still a young guy that has some very nice upside. He hasn't realized it yet in the major leagues. We'll have to see how that goes, but he's a very good defensive catcher as well. We'll have to see how the offense works out for him, but I like this move. They gave up pitcher Casey Kelly and catcher Ricardo Rodriguez for him, so I think San Diego got the best player in that deal. They also traded for outfielder John Jay from the St. Louis Cardinals, gave up Jed Jerko for him. So while Jerko had some serious upside at one point, it's a guy that strikes out way too much, kept his average down, but he does have some power. But they're sending him to St. Louis, bringing in John Jay, a guy that's been very useful for the St. Louis Cardinals for a number of years now. Doesn't have huge power, huge speed or anything, plays excellent defense, keeps his average up, a pretty good hitter. So
not last year.
No? Did he have a bad year last year?
By his standards, usually, yeah.
Well, you got to remember, too, he wasn't playing as much last year either, obviously, because the St. Louis Cardinals, they called up some prospects in the outfield there, and they still had Matt Holliday out there. So, yeah, John Jay, he was just the odd man out in St. Louis these days. They traded for pitcher Drew Pomeranz as well. He might end up in the bullpen. I guess he has a chance to be a starter as well. They sent Yonder Alonso to Oakland for him. Yonder Alonso, a guy that had some upside at one time, never really produced enough power for the first base position. And then they traded for infielder Jose Perella from the New York Yankees as well. This is a guy, still a young guy, that has some nice offensive upside, not a ton of power or anything, has some speed, and can keep his average up. Well, at least he did in the minors. We'll have to see in the big leagues. He never really got too much playing time with the Yankees, although he wasn't terrible with them when he did get some playing time sporadically. So they made some moves here, but they also lost a lot of names. Craig Kimbrell, they lost him to a trade. They brought in Manuel Margot, Javier Guerra, and a couple other prospects for him. Now, Manuel Margot is the biggest name in this trade coming to San Diego. Obviously, Kimbrell's the biggest name. But Margot, bring him over from Boston. He hit .276 with a .324, 6 home runs, 32 walks compared to 51 Ks, and added 39 stolen bases between A Advanced and AA last season. He has great defense. He has huge speed, good plate discipline. The really only question about this guy is power. This is their top prospect. We may see him this season. It might be next season. We'll have to see how things go. But they're really looking forward to Emmanuel Margot getting his shot at some point, and this guy is their future in the outfield. They also lost outfielder Justin Upton as well to free agency. They lost pitcher Adrisimer Despain, I can't remember how it was said, in a trade with Baltimore. They lost outfielder Reimer Liriano. This was a prospect for him at one time. They traded him to Milwaukee. They lost relief pitcher Sean Kelly, relief pitcher Joaquin Benoit in a trade with Seattle. They lost starting pitcher Ian Kennedy to free agency, starting pitcher Bud Norris to free agency, and they lost infielder Clint Barmis. I'm sure that's not a big loss to them, although Big Easy, I know you'd hate it.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a hole at shortstop now in San Diego.
Believe it.
Please believe.
But
you're garbage, Clint.
Starting pitcher Josh Johnson, I think he remains unsigned as well. This is a guy sort of like Brandon Morrow. I think Morrow's a better pitcher now, but Josh Johnson looked like he was going to be an ace at one time, goes down with Tommy John, I believe it was, and he's just never been able to stay healthy since. So, a lot of moves this offseason. What's it boil down to? Right now, your outfield, you got Matt Kemp, obviously. He had a pretty good season last year. I think he had 100 RBIs for him, didn't he?
23 home runs, 100 RBIs.
So not a terrible season out of him. Not what he showed, a handful of years ago now in Los Angeles. He was probably considered the best player in the game for a short span there. He's not that guy, but he's still a very good player at this point. So you got him in right field. But outside of that, you got John Jay. He needs to step it up from last season. Obviously, he didn't get much playing time, though, but he's always been a good defensive outfielder, if nothing else, and able to hit for some average as well, like I was saying before. But then it's Melvin Upton Jr., and I don't know if that guy's going to work out. And if he doesn't work out, you can move John Jay to center field, but there's still a slot missing here. Alex Dickerson's a guy that might make this roster. He actually came over from the Pittsburgh Pirates system. He was playing first base for the Pirates. He's not very good defensively. He's slow, and his power hasn't come around how they want, but this guy can hit for average. He's 25 years old now, hit 307 with a 374 on base in AAA last year, 36 doubles, but just 12 home runs. He did have 45 walks compared to 96 Ks and 459 at bats, so he is a good hitter. The power just isn't there. He has no speed whatsoever, doesn't play good defense. He's been pushed to left field, and really he's not that good of a left fielder either. But, I mean, if nothing else, he can hit. But then they have Jabari Blash as well. He can make this team. He's 26 years old now. They acquired him in the Rule 5 draft from the Seattle Mariners system, so he's going to have to stay on this roster if San Diego wants to keep him. He hit 271 with a 370 on base between AA and AAA last season, 32 home runs, 59 walks, and 123 Ks. K's a little bit too much, but he can take the walk, and he has a ton of power, so maybe this guy steps up and gets some playing time for him. If nothing else, maybe a fourth outfielder or whatever. They also got Hunter Renfroe as well. This is a guy in the minors. I really expected more out of him when he got drafted, but he's still a decent player. He hit 272 with a 321 on base last season between AA and AAA, 20 jacks, but 37 walks compared to 132 Ks and 511 at bats. This guy's a nice power bat, and I do expect him to be a starter for San Diego at some point, and maybe as early as this season, looking at how their outfield looks right now outside of Matt Kemp. So we may see him at some point this year, and this outfield can look better here in the future with Margot, Hunter Renfroe, and Kemp. But right now, outside of Kemp, I got a lot of questions. I mean, John Jay, he's a decent player or whatever. Still, I have questions outside of Kemp in this outfield.
Kemp's even a question himself, has injury concerns.
Yeah, definitely. Jose Perella can play some outfield as well. Play second base and outfield. Maybe you see him play out there a little bit this season. Who knows?
And what do you call that place? A pitcher's park?
Definitely.
Oh,
yeah. So
Petco Park's a hitter's graveyard.
They got to be doing some sprinting out there then. So what's the speed look like out in the outfield for them
Well,
guys?
I mean, Melvin Upton Jr., He has some decent speed. This is a guy that can give you 20-20. I mean, at one point you thought he could give you 30-30 these seasons. He can give you 20-20 seasons, but he doesn't hit well enough where it just doesn't show up because he just can't hit the ball. He strikes out way too much. He's just not a good hitter. But Kemp, he has some speed, but he's lost a lot of it over the past few years as well, and he's definitely not the type of runner he used to be. In fact, he had a lot of injury history as well, so that you really don't want to run him too much because you're afraid that he's going to get hurt.
Right.
And John Jay, I mean, a little bit of speed. He does have some speed. It doesn't show up on the base pass really that much, though, but he can cover some ground in the outfield. A lot of fans of baseball who don't follow the Padres may be wondering where Will Myers went. Well, they're actually thinking about playing him at first base this season. They let him play some first base last season as well, and he actually hit very well last season, although he went down with an injury and missed a lot of playing time. But Will Myers might be the best hitter on this team. He showed great improvement last year from his previous years in the bigs, and he's still a young guy. This was a top prospect at one time, top outfield prospect. And he can be a five-tool player. He can give you home runs and speed as well and hit for a good average. He just has to strike out less, and he started to show that last season. So Will Myers at first base, I really like that. If he can just play some good defense out there, I think San Diego finally got that first baseman they've been looking for.
Well, he needs to stay healthy.
That's a huge part of it. Will Myers definitely needs to stay healthy.
That's actually probably why the move to first base was initiated in the first place.
Yeah.
They like his bat, but at the same time, getting himself dinged up playing the outfield.
Exactly.
Well, how old is he now?
He's still in his mid-20s.
He's just injury prone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some guys, they're just injury prone, man, but he's a beast when he's healthy. This is a guy that came over from Tampa Bay, actually. That's who he was a top prospect for, and then they dealt him over to San Diego here, and he's really broken out with the Padres. He broke out last season, really, but then he went down with an injury. He came back, played a little bit of first base or whatever, and he looked pretty good, so they're going to give him a shot at first base. How about Corey Spangenberg at second base? Do you like that guy at all? He's still a young guy, has some upside as well, showed it in the minors. He really got to break out in the major league still. But, I mean, he wasn't terrible last season. He did hit .271, had 9 stolen bases and 4 jacks in just 303 at-bats. So you can see he does have some upside. You double those at-bats, you got a guy that can hit 10 home runs, steal you 20 bases, and that's not that terrible. So he does have some upside here, but there's still a lot of questions about him too because he strikes out a little bit too much, and he's going to have to bring that down a little bit if he wants his average to stay up at where it's at. And it's a career .274 hitter through his first 2 seasons so far, really a season and 20 games. But I think they want to give Spangenberg as long as an opportunity as possible to become their long-term second baseman. They brought over Alexi Ramirez, like I said, from Chicago to play shortstop. This guy at one time, he showed some serious upside. I mean, he had the power, he had the speed, he played good defense. Now, I mean, his offensive numbers have dropped over the past couple of years, although I still think they upgraded at the shortstop position to this point. And how about Yangervis Solarte, man? You like that guy? He can play around the field as well, but they gave him a chance here at third base a couple years ago here, and he's stuck to this point.
He showed a little bit of pop last year, 14 home runs, but
yeah, he's a solid bat. He's not going to kill it in any one category or anything, but he's been solid since he's got his opportunity to start in the bigs. Still, though, I mean, you look around, I do like Will Myers at first base, but outside of that, the infield, some good players, it's just not great by any means, I wouldn't think, and the same with the outfield there, so I think they're kind of lacking offensively. But catcher, I think they're set up at catcher. Like I said, they brought in Christian Betancourt, but they also have Derek Norris, who has showed some serious offense as well, and Austin Hedges, a young guy that has shown offense in the minor leagues, and this guy, I mean, he still has to prove himself in the big leagues or whatever, but he's still young, and I believe he can become a starter at some point. So I really like what they got going on at catcher. What do you think about this offense, though, 47?
I don't like it at all.
Not feeling it?
I just don't think they're going to score runs. I mean, Matt Kemp's good, but he's not great anymore. I know he's not
good
good.
RBIs.
Yeah, but that was with Justin Upton in the lineup, and
yeah, believe it.
So I just don't see the protection there for him. I mean, Will Myers has could be something great, but I
Yeah.
mean, I just don't like it in Petco Park. You talk about
Yeah.
Coors Field being a hitter's park. So, Petco Park's like definitely for the pitcher.
Yeah, it's like night and day from
Oh.
Colorado.
They
Although-
actually lowered the walls out at Petco Park.
Well, I mean, it should be noted though that
Yeah, I think they brought him in actually. Not
Really?
not this year, last year I believe it was, or the year before. Yeah.
Oh, made like a. I think I might have heard something
Adjustment
about that
to the
too.
walls.
Yeah, yeah. What were you saying, JK? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, one thing worth noting is we get into the rotation. James Shields actually surrendered, I think, the first or second most home runs among qualified starters, and that's pitching in San Diego.
Yeah, I do remember something about him giving up a ton of home runs last season. He's still a good pitcher. He's not the same pitcher he used to be, though, but I still believe he's good enough to be a number 2 or number 3. Back in the day, he was pitching like a number 1, obviously. I wouldn't trust that so much anymore.
What,
but,
2 years ago?
well, I would say it was longer than 2 years. It feels like longer than 2 years. Maybe like 2012, something like that. But you don't need to trust him as a number 1 because you got Tyson Ross as well, and I think this is a number 1 type pitcher. He might not be an ace or anything, but I think he's a top of the rotation type pitcher. And you got Andrew Kashner as well. He had a down season last year, but you're 1, 2, 3. I really like what you got. But outside of that, you got Brandon Maurer, Colin Ray, Robbie Erlin. Now, Ray and Erlin, they're young guys, and they do have some upside. They play pretty well in the minor leagues, but they have to prove it here in the bigs. But these are 2 guys that can step in and maybe grab some back end of the rotation spots here at some point this season, if not the beginning. But they also have Luis Perdomo. And this is a guy, another Rule 5 pick they got out of the St. Louis Cardinals system that has a little bit of upside. So, I don't know. Maybe they push him to the bullpen. Maybe they give him the number 5 spot in the rotation. We'll have to see at this point. But he got to stay on the 25-man if they want to keep him. So, we'll have to see what they do with him at this point. And like I said, Drew Pomeranz as well as a guy that they could pitch. But this is a guy with a ton of injury history as well. And he's been able to stay a little bit more healthy in the bullpen, so they may go that way with him. So there's a lot of options they have here, but the top 3, I think those are set in stone with Ross, Shields, and Kashner as long as they stay healthy.
Well, I mean, Maurer, you never know if he's going to be in the rotation or the bullpen. If he doesn't seize his job, I mean, I was under the impression they liked him as a closer, because he got a pretty good fastball.
Well, they did bring in Fernando Rodney.
Yeah, I'm not feeling that.
Well, yeah, they got him at closer. They got Drew Pomeranz, like I was saying. Kevin Quackenbush is a guy I think can be a closer as well. It looks like he's going to be the 8th inning guy this season. But they got Nick Vincent as well, Carlos Villanueva, like I said, they brought in. So their bullpen isn't terrible. It looks all right, although I'm not big on Rodney like you aren't either. At one time, he was one of the best closers in baseball, but I think he's a little bit past his prime at this point. They're going to give him a chance, but I think if he falters, they wouldn't mind turning to Kevin Quackenbush either, and that's who I want to see step in and close for him as well.
Quackbusters, get them.
But they also got another starting pitcher in the minors. Like I said, Colin Ray, I'll give you his numbers real quick. He had a 1.95 ERA, 80 Ks compared to 23 walks and 79 hits in 102 innings between AA and AAA. So he pitched very well, but he did get some time in the bigs as well. Had 32 MLB innings. And, I mean, he did all right. 4.26 ERA in his debut, 26 Ks compared to 11 walks in those 32 innings. This guy's 6'5", 225 pounds, so he's a big dude. So I think that they want to try to get this guy in the rotation, and, I mean, he could be a guy to eat up a ton of innings.
Yeah, for sure. He finally took a step forward and developed a splitter to go with that cutter and curveball, so he's going to be a workhorse.
Yeah, I definitely want to see this guy in the rotation at some point this year. Like I said, he's 25 years old, so quit holding him back. Put him in the rotation. There's a couple spots at the back end here you can mess with, and I'd put him in one of them. And they also have this reliever here as well, Tayron Guerrero. He's 25 years old. He's 6'8", 210 pounds. His fastball hits triple digits. He has a slider to go with it. A 3.05 ERA, 61 Ks. Compared to 31 walks and 56 innings between AA and AAA. So his command isn't the greatest, obviously. 31 walks and 56 innings isn't that good. But it can work in a bullpen when you have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and another pitch to go along with it. And this guy could be a closer at some point as well. So maybe it's him at some point this season that gets a chance if Rodney falters and they want to keep Quackenbush in the 7th or 8th inning. So they have a lot of options here with the pitching. We'll just have to see how it turns out. They got to make the right choices. I don't believe Brandon Maurer's a good pitcher for this rotation. I think they can do better than that. And I'd like to have Drew Pomeranz be a starting pitcher for him, but this guy just can't stay healthy, and he pitches well in the bullpen. So I'd let that bullpen strengthen up a little bit and choose these younger guys like Erlin and Ray. Or, like I said, Perdomo, the guy that they got in the Rule 5 draft, they have to keep him on this 25-man, maybe give him a shot. I don't know. I think this rotation looks okay as long as Cashner steps up as well and pitches better than he did last season, pitches like he did in 2014.
It could happen. I've always been really high on him, actually.
I like him, too.
You know, I mean, control issues plague him, though. I mean, and that's his biggest downfall right there is he's a lot like John Gray. Like, can't seem to harness all that stuff because he throws hard.
We've seen it out of Cashner in the bigs. We really haven't seen it out of Gray outside of a couple road starts last season. I mean, Cashner put it together for a full season there a couple years ago.
Owns the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Cashner?
Yeah.
I believe it. I know the Pittsburgh Pirates always had trouble playing in San Diego, so it doesn't surprise me. But what are you thinking about this Team 47? Where do you think they'll end up?
I think he'll pitch okay. I mean, but as far as scoring runs, I think that's going to be problematic. I mean, the Rockies are going to score, but they're not going to stop you from scoring. I mean, I got to give fourth place in this division to the San Diego Padres. You know, I think he'll have some offense, but overall, I mean, I'm just not liking it.
The same with the Colorado Rockies. They got the offense, not the pitching. The San Diego Padres, they have the pitching, not the offense. And I guess it's set up for what stadium you play in. If you want to play in Colorado, you want the hitting, right? And if you play in San Diego, you want the pitching. So it kind of makes sense. But I'm going to go with pitching over hitting. So I'm going to say San Diego goes to fourth place as well.
USA Today has them projected at 73 wins. Would you say that's about right? Over, under? Or what does that sound?
I was going to say 74.
74. I'm going to go under, but not much. 70, 71.
Okay. Because it's tough because they do have a lot of games against, you know, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and
San Francisco.
So, I mean, that's tough.
Yeah, and their roster last season looked beast to me. Then it goes into the season, they never performed up to expectations.
Did they fire their coach mid-season last year? Or was that the year before?
No, it was last year, I believe.
Yeah, because they had some high expectations, right?
Oh, yeah, they had huge expectations. I mean, they brought in Craig Kimbrell to be their closer, you remember. They brought in Justin Upton. They brought in Matt Kemp. They brought in Will Myers. I mean, they beefed up this outfield, and it just didn't work out for them. So, I mean, they made a lot of changes again. And it doesn't look as good to me, but who knows? I mean, they were terrible last year. So maybe they just needed to mix it up and make some changes here. Maybe they do play better and play better as a unit, better as a team, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to say that they're gonna end up fifth in this division. With the changes, with last year's expectations and the disappointment this year, I mean, and just another mediocre. This is one of the mediocre teams in the league. I mean, we talked about the American League being very competitive, almost every team, and besides the A's, right? And this is the A's of the National League, so I'm going to say they'll finish last this year with
the A's. There's teams worse than the Padres though, because there's teams like in complete rebuild mode.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Right, I understand, but still.
But that's cool. Yeah,
72.
I don't have a problem with it. I could see him ending up in fifth place.
JK, what do you feel?
Fourth place, 74 wins.
Not bad.
How many wins did you say?
72.
72. Get it. All right, that wraps it up then. San Diego Padres, I'm not feeling you this season, although I do like some of this pitching you got here, and I like Will Myers. I'm over Matt Kemp. I had that dude on my team for years, and I got completely sick of him.
So, Matt Kemp, if you want to holler at us, you can like us on Facebook. Open up your iPhone with that YouTube app and hit us up on YouTube.
I don't know. Do they have YouTube apps?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think people like to use YouTube on their iPhone because it takes up a bunch of space or some kind of crap. It uses a bunch of memory.
If you got that $50 LG Walmart smartphone, open up your YouTube app and subscribe to that YouTube channel. What do they get to that?
YouTube.com/bet-the-spread.
/bet the spread. We're going to continue our talk on the NL West here shortly. Peace.